Are you trying to pay off debt but struggling to stay motivated? Well, you might be using the wrong strategy. Most people assume that the fastest way to get out of debt is to focus on interest rates. But debt payoff is just as much about psychology as it is about maths. And if you're using the wrong method, you could be making the journey harder on yourself. I'm Heather, a qualified accountant and finance director, and I help women take control of their money and build real wealth. In this video, I'm breaking down the two most popular debt payoff methods: debt snowball versus the debt avalanche, to help you figure out which one is right for you. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which method will keep you motivated, save you the most money, and help you get out of debt faster. Plus, I'll share the biggest mistakes people make when paying off debt and how to avoid them. If you're ready to take control of your debt and finally see some progress, let's get into it. All right, let's break this down. The two most popular ways to pay off debt are the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. Both work, but the right one depends on how you stay motivated and how you think about money. The debt snowball is all about quick wins. You start by paying off your smallest debt first, no matter the interest rate. Once that's cleared, you roll the payment into the next smallest debt, and so on. It builds momentum, kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger as you go. The debt avalanche is about saving the most money. Instead of focusing on balances, you're focusing on interest rates. You target the debt with the highest interest rate first. By knocking out the most expensive debt, you cut down on how much you pay overall. On paper, the debt avalanche seems like the obvious choice. It saves you the most money. But debt isn't just about numbers, and that is where things get interesting. Let's say you've got three debts: credit card debt of £10,000 at 18% interest, a car loan at £2,000 at 7% interest, and a personal loan of £5,000 at 5% interest. If you use the debt snowball, you pay minimums on all of the debts except the smallest one. Every spare penny that you have goes towards that £2,000 car loan. Once that's gone, you take the money you were paying on it and roll it into the personal loan, and so on and so on. The biggest benefit to this is that you get the quick win, which makes you feel like you're making progress. When you see results fast, you're more likely to stick to it. If you use the debt avalanche method, you pay minimums on all of the debts except the one with the highest interest. So in this case, every spare penny will go towards that credit card debt. Once that's paid off, you move on to the car loan, then the personal loan. The biggest benefit here is that you save more money overall, because you're cutting down the highest interest rate first. That means that you pay off your debt faster in the long run. It all essentially boils down to motivation versus maths. A study from the psychological factors of multiple debt repayment strategies found that people who see small debts disappear quickly are way more likely to stick to their plan. Basically, progress feels addictive. Debt avalanche wins on pure numbers. Paying off the highest interest debt first saves the most money, and so you pay off your debt faster. But most people don't stick to it because it takes longer to see the progress, because you're not knocking all those small debts off your plate. So the real question isn't which method is better, it's which method will you actually stick to? And that is what we're going to figure out next. All right. So you know how each method works. Let's talk about which one is actually right for you. Debt snowball is all about quick wins. If you're someone who needs to see progress fast to stay motivated, this method might be the one for you. It's best for people who feel overwhelmed by debt. If looking at your balances makes you want to bury your head in the sand, this method helps you focus on one small win at a time. Every time you pay off a debt, it's a little psychological boost. It feels good, so you keep going. I've seen so many people stick to their debt-free journey simply because they can see these small debts disappearing. The study found that people using the snowball method were more likely to follow through because that sense of progress kept them in the game. Basically, if motivation is a struggle for you, the snowball method might be the one that actually works. Now, the debt avalanche method is for those that are laser focused on saving money and don't mind playing the long game. If you're someone who can stay disciplined without the small victories, you'll love this method. It takes longer to see the debts disappear, but the numbers don't lie. You'll pay less interest over time, and it's actually faster than the snowball method. It's great for logical thinkers. If you love spreadsheets, tracking your financial progress, and optimizing every penny, you'll get a kick out of watching those interest savings add up. Let's say you're comparing the two methods, and the avalanche method actually saves you £2,000 over the next 5 years. If that's enough to keep you motivated, even though you might not see those quick wins in the beginning, then the avalanche is the best method for you. So if you're patient, disciplined, and numbers driven, debt avalanche is the clear winner for long-term savings. If you're still not sure, let's sum it up with some quick pros and cons. The debt snowball gives you quick wins to keep you motivated, is easier to stick with, especially if the debt feels overwhelming, and it's great for building confidence. However, it costs more in interest over time, and it's not mathematically the optimal strategy. The debt avalanche saves you the most money on interest, helps you pay off the debts faster if you stick with it, and it is mathematically the smartest choice. But it can feel slow and discouraging at first, and it requires strong discipline. At the end of the day, the best method is the one that you actually follow through with. Let's say you have 20 grand in debt across different accounts. If you use the Avalanche method, you could end up paying it off months or even years faster than the Snowball method, simply because you're stopping the interest from piling up. But most people don't stick to the perfect mathematical plan. A lot of people get discouraged when progress feels slow. If you start paying off your highest interest debt first, but it's a big balance, you might just feel like you're getting nowhere, even though you're technically saving money. And that's where the debt snowball's hidden advantage is: momentum. Because you see progress faster, you're way more likely to stay consistent. And consistency is what actually clears your debts. Studies found that people using the debt snowball method were more likely to complete their debt payoff journey, and that most people don't actually optimize for interest savings. They make repayment decisions based on what actually feels achievable. So even though Avalanche makes most sense mathematically, for most people, Snowball might actually be faster because they actually stick to it rather than quitting halfway through. If you're still unsure which method to choose, ask yourself these 3 questions. Do you need motivation, or do you prioritize saving money? If you need quick wins to stay motivated, then it's the debt snowball method. If you're focused on paying the least amount of interest possible, the debt Avalanche is the way to go. How do you react to small wins? Do you get a boost from checking things off a list? Snowball is great for momentum. Or are you happy to grind it out for bigger savings? Then Avalanche will reward you in the long run. Will sticking to numbers alone keep you engaged? If seeing the total interest savings excites you, debt Avalanche is the way to go. If you just lose interest when progress feels slow, then the snowball method might work better. I've seen so many people start with the debt Avalanche because they wanted to save the most money, but then they hit a wall. It felt like nothing was happening, so they switched to debt snowball. And suddenly the momentum kicked in and they actually stuck with it. And I've seen the opposite too. People who started with the snowball, but after clearing their first few debts, realized that they were ready to optimize and switch to the Avalanche. And that's okay. You're not locked into one method forever. The key is to find what works for you and what keeps you going. At the end of the day, the best debt payoff plan isn't the one that looks best on paper. It's the one that gets you across the finish line. All right, so now you know which method might work best for you. Let's talk about how you actually apply it and avoid some of the biggest mistakes that people make when trying to pay off debt. You can mix both methods. You don't have to stick to just one. In fact, a hybrid approach can give you the best of both worlds. Start with the debt snowball to build momentum. Pay off a couple of small debts to feel that progress. Then switch to debt avalanche once you're feeling more confident and committed, so you can save the most money in the long run. I've seen loads of people do this, and it works because you're getting the best of both strategies. Quick wins at the start and financial efficiency in the long run. So let's say you get a bonus at work or a tax refund. How do you apply it to your debt? If you're using the debt snowball, throw it at your smallest debt. You could even knock it out instantly. That boost can make everything else feel easier. If you're using it for debt avalanche, put it towards your highest interest debt first to cut down how much you're going to owe over time. If you're using a hybrid approach, use the windfall strategically. Maybe clear a small balance for motivation, then switch to the avalanche to maximize savings. Or use it to lower your highest interest debt first to save money in the long run. The key is to avoid the temptation of spending it elsewhere. This is a golden opportunity to speed things up. Now, let's talk about the biggest mistakes that can slow down your debt-free journey and how to avoid them. Not tracking your debts properly. If you don't have a clear list of what you owe, your balances and interest rates, you're flying blind. Use a spreadsheet, an app, or even just a notebook and pen to track everything. Constantly switching between Snowball and Avalanche because you're second-guessing yourself. That can actually slow you down. Pick a method and stick to it for at least 3 months, then reassess. Debt payoff isn't just about throwing money at balances. It's also not adding new debt. If you're constantly putting expenses onto credit cards, it's time to look at your spending habits and budgeting. I've seen people make amazing progress at paying off debt, only to get stuck in the cycle again because they didn't change their spending habits. Debt payoff is part of a bigger financial shift. It's about building long-term wealth, not just getting back to zero. If you're ready to take action, here's exactly what to do next. List all of your debts, balances, interest rates, and minimum payments. No more guessing. Next, decide which method suits you, or at least which method you want to try first. Debt snowball for motivation or debt avalanche for savings. Pick your method and stick to it for at least 3 months before reevaluating. If you're working on paying off debt, I've got other videos that you might find useful. one on creating a debt payoff plan and another on using 0% balance transfer cards to reduce your interest when you're trying to pay it down. And if you're interested in more videos like this, please feel free to subscribe. I'm always sharing ways to make managing money easier. At the end of the day, the method that you choose isn't as important as just getting started and sticking with it. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll be debt free. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.